I literally just made a video about Rafael Devers' refusal to switch positions to accommodate the Red Sox $120 million man Alex Bregman, and the negative impact this could have on his team. But in that video, I only spent a marginal amount of time discussing his poor performance over the course of his career with his glove. And honestly, I don't think that really does justice to how truly terrible he's been in this regard since making his debut back in 2017. I want to break down his overall defense level by level, starting with the bluntest number you can look at: errors. While the stat definitely has its flaws, like for example Elly De La Cruz posting an extremely productive season last year in the field despite making 29 miscues, it does capture to some small degree how consistently terrible Rafael has been year to year, as he's managed to lead the American League in this infamous stat in each of the last 7 seasons. You heard me right, 7 straight seasons. He also led the overall majors in this regard in 4 of those years as well. This adds up to 141 career errors so far and an atrocious 944 fielding percentage, easily one of the worst in the major leagues among active players. The next set of performance stats we'll be looking at is DWAR, or defensive wins above replacement, and DRS, or defensive runs saved, being lumped together by me largely because they're both provided by Baseball Reference. Neither one are amazing in evaluating fielder performance in my opinion, but they are higher resolution than just errors. Not that this does Devers any favors. Since his first year, there's only been one third baseman who's played at least 75% of their games at third who has a lower overall DWAR, with his mark of -3.6 being one of only 2 lower than -3, trailing the stone-handed Alec Bohm by a margin of -1.2. But not even Alec can keep pace with Rafi's -62 DRS, which is the worst at his position over this time period by a full margin of 10. Moving on to our next category, we have the numbers I briefly addressed in my previous video, outs above average. Like I said there, Devers is the worst in this regard since they started tracking the stat back in 2016 at an atomically bad -28, 7 worse than the next closest in Maikel Franco. This included a 2021 season where he was tied for the second worst total ever at the position in an individual season, with -13. Our 5th and final measure of performance is probably the most holistic one currently existing, at least in my view, which is fielding run value. While he's not as terrible as he was in OAA, he still is pretty bad, with a career total of -21. This means that by every major available fielding metric we can look at, he is objectively awful, which will hopefully give a little bit more perspective as to why his refusal to cede positions to one of the best active fielders at the hot corner is so ridiculous in my opinion. There was one thing I did want to point out while digging into the data that I found extremely interesting. For some reason, despite him posting -5 DRS and leading his league in errors at 22 back in 2019, he somehow managed to be worth, in this season, 13 fielding runs to go along with 18 outs above average. This is one of the more ludicrous outlier seasons I've ever seen in a statistical sense, as this has been the only season in his career that he was even in the positive numbers in either stat. In fact, his OAA was actually so ludicrously good that it's tied for the second best in recorded StatCast history, with 2016 Nolan Arenado. Does this mean anything? Well, considering that since this season he's posted -25 FRV and -33 outs above average, I don't think so. But it is exceptionally interesting to me nonetheless, and certainly worth mentioning. Before we go, I want to leave you with a question. Do you think Rafael Devers, if he stays at third base, will see any degree of improvement over the next few years? Or do you think he should just pack it in, let Bregman take his spot, and try to hone his craft as either a first baseman or DH? Let me know in the comments below. Now, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, please consider liking and subscribing and checking out any one of these recommended videos. Have a great rest of your day, everybody, and I'll see you in the next one.